There's often technology issues in this world. I've got a new computer and I can't access any of my PowerPoints on the new computer.
Oh no. All right, Dr. Tom, you're live on Facebook and Zoom.
All right, we're live again. 4 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock Mountain, and here in Costa Rica, 7 o'clock the East Coast, midnight in Dublin, midnight in London, 1 a.m. in Milan and most of Europe, 4:30 a.m. Wednesday morning in New Delhi, 9 a.m. Wednesday morning in Brisbane, Auckland, it's 11 a.m. in Auckland, and it's Facebook Live. And hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. As you give a little shout out, tell me where you're from. I get really excited by seeing where everybody is from. And it's Facebook Live. And we have a great guest today who's not quite here yet. Maybe she's having some technical difficulties. So I'm just going to go to questions, which I love doing. And some of the questions that have come in ahead of time, you guys are always welcome to send in your questions ahead of time, and they'll be at the top of the list as I'm looking at them. The first one is from Yvette. What do you suggest for Hashimoto's? Well, as is true for every autoimmune disease, I can say that now, and let's make sure I can share screen. As is true for every autoimmune disease, I'm going to show you a slide that I just showed part of my team today. I made the slide last Friday, and I used it in my presentation on Sunday to a few hundred physicians in Brazil. And it dropped their jaw, and I know it's going to drop your jaw too, to this question of what do you do for Hashimoto's? That's really a good question, but you'll see as I'm bringing up this slide, it takes me a minute to get it here, to get it up, and let's see if I can find it for you, so that, yeah, it's opening up now, and because as is true for Hashimoto's, it's true for most autoimmune diseases. So I've got the presentation up, and now I can share screen. If I find that button, there it is. So I'm going to share this screen and bring up the presentation. And after all that delay introduction, it's so that you can see this study that just came out 2 weeks ago. And let me bring this up to the top so I can get to the presenting mode. There we go. This is from Professor Yehuda Schonfeld, the godfather of autoimmunity. And when I talk about the godfather of autoimmunity, when I interviewed him for Betrayal, and we'll put the link here for Betrayal, I'll reference it a couple of times tonight. But when I interviewed him at that time, 26 of the PhD students who received their PhD in immunology from him, there are many, many more, but 26 chaired departments of immunology in med schools and hospitals around the world. They're all his students. This is the godfather. This is the go-to guy in the world when you want to understand the big picture of autoimmunity and the detail. You know, so when you're going for your PhD, this is the guy you sit and listen and take notes for a few years before you get your PhD. This is the guy, Yehuda Schonfeld. And the first author on this paper is my friend, Aaron Lerner. Professor Lerner and I published a paper on this topic about 1.5 years ago. But this is a new paper that just came out. And Professor Schonfeld tells us in this paper, they looked at 83 articles. Look at the topic of the paper up at the top. Gluten-free diet can ameliorate, that means calm down, the symptoms of non-celiac autoimmune disease. So they looked at 83 research papers to see, does gluten have anything to do with different autoimmune diseases? And they said that 64.7% of 1,400 patients got better on a gluten-free diet. And that 66 out of the 83 studies that they looked at, almost 80% confirmed, yeah, gluten works sometimes to help when somebody's got an autoimmune disease. And the most common autoimmune diseases that showed results were psoriasis, Hashimoto's thyroid disease, inflammatory bowel disease, and you see the numbers. So for thyroid, it was 87.4% of the people who went exclusively on a gluten-free diet. I shouldn't say exclusively, completely on a gluten-free diet. 87% of them got better, meaning their antibody load comes down. 87%. And autoimmune thyroid was the most common autoimmune disease that got better on a gluten-free diet. It was the most common one. And this is the slide that I wanted to show you after all that crazy introduction. If you didn't go somewhere else and leave the site, thank you for staying while we were pulling it up. And I know you can't see this slide, but what Professor Schoenfeld tells us is that Addison's, the autoimmune disease of the adrenals, got better. Autoimmune hepatitis in the liver, autoimmune pancreatitis, autoimmune thyroid disease, autoimmune myocarditis got better. That's the heart, as so many people are having problems with after receiving the vaccinations. Amenorrhea, autoimmune hypopituitary, meaning the antibodies go down. Antiphospholipid syndrome that causes miscarriages went down. And the list goes on and on. Multiple sclerosis, of all of the autoimmune diseases that they looked at, psoriasis, that Raynaud's phenomenon, that get better, rheumatoid, on a recurrent pericarditis, the inflammation around the heart, diabetes, uveitis, they all got better on a gluten-free diet. And I just wanted to show you that slide. So when people get diagnosed with a particular condition, it's really scary. It's very scary. And I included the link to that article earlier today in our meeting. If you can pull that up and post it, if you can, that'd be great.
Sorry, I can't pull that up.
You cannot, okay. It's scary when people get diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroid disease or rheumatoid arthritis. Well, what do I do for rheumatoid arthritis? What you have to understand is that it doesn't matter what you're diagnosed with. Of course, it matters, of course it does, but to successfully put the thing into remission, to successfully calm down the inflammatory cascade that's manifesting as whatever the diagnosis is you got. And for those of you that have been here before, you know that 8 out of the top 10 causes of death in the US are chronic inflammatory diseases. Alzheimer's, diabetes, rheumatoid, heart disease, it doesn't matter. They're chronic inflammatory diseases. 8 out of the top 10, the only 2 that are not are unintentional injuries, accidents, and suicide. But we argue suicide's a chronic inflammatory disease because it's always with depression, and depression is a chronic inflammatory disease. So the big picture that Professor Schoenfeld is trying to tell us here is that chronic inflammatory diseases, doesn't matter which one you got, that a gluten-free diet may be helpful. So what does that mean? It means you have to be tested thoroughly to see, do I have a problem with wheat? And the test is called the wheat Zoomer. And so we will put the link in here for the wheat Zoomer test. That's going to tell you, do I have a problem with wheat or not? Because it doesn't matter how you feel when you eat wheat. It does not matter. Well, I don't feel bad when I eat wheat. I've been eating my whole life. I don't feel bad. Yeah, I've been diagnosed with psoriasis, but I don't feel bad when I eat wheat. For every one person that has gut symptoms with a wheat sensitivity, there are 8 people that don't. The ratio is 8 to 1. They've got brain symptoms, skin symptoms, heart symptoms, lung symptoms. That's what Professor Schoenfeld is trying to tell us in this slide. In this slide, That's what he's trying to tell us, is that all of these different conditions may get better. Not guaranteed, but it may. And the may is better than, well, there's a slight chance. No, it's over 70% of all of these things get better on a gluten-free diet. This is such a powerful paper coming from the godfather of autoimmunity. I mean, it's remarkable to see this paper. I'm so happy. And, for those that have been with us a long time, like my certified gluten-free practitioners who've been around for a number of years, yeah, we've been talking about this, showing the studies on this way back in 2009 on autoimmune diseases and wheat. And it's just been more papers now, more papers, more validation, to where we're at the point now. I remember when I interviewed Schoenfeld in 2016 for Betrayal. He said, oh, yes, you're the doctor that talks all about gluten, aren't you? And I said, yes. He said, yes, sometimes maybe it may be a problem. That was his position in 2016. Now here we are, 2022, and he just published that paper, that 70 to 80% of the autoimmune diseases, all of those autoimmune diseases, may get better on a gluten-free diet. I mean, it's just remarkable, and it tickles us to see this, because you can't argue with this, right? You can't argue with that kind of science. So let me go back to the questions now and see what the next one is. I have to close out of the presentation, so that just takes me a moment. And then let's just see, here we go, there's our questions. And if I get my glasses on, I can see. Hi, Dr. Tom. My 75-year-old mother has had chronic urinary tract infections for about 6 months. Taking meds, drinking cranberry juice, what do you think is the root cause? There's some type of, her immune system, this is a great question, and Margaret, thank you, Margaret. Great question. And the way you think about this is, why can't her immune system deal with whatever bacteria is causing the infection? How come her immune, well, she's 75. I don't buy that. I'm 70. I don't buy that. That her immune system is worn down, but it's not because of her age, that there is some type of drain. Your immune system has a bank account of energy. And if you're eating foods that continually demand the immune system to fight that food, or if you've got leaky gut, I'm just using the slang term for tonight, but if you've got leaky gut that demands your immune system use its energy to fight the exhaust of bad bacteria called LPS again and again and again, then you've drained the bank account. And the bank account doesn't have enough juice to fight the bacteria, so it keeps coming back again. And I can guarantee you, with recurrent UTIs, and unfortunately, it is the path to sepsis. The #1 cause of death of elders in the hospital. My mother died of sepsis, so I know this one really well. And recurrent UTIs mean recurrent infections, recurrent antibiotics, which alter your microbiome, weaken the microbiome more and more and more. And the microbiome is 70% of your immune system is in the gut. It's in the microbiome, that whole arena down there. And you keep weakening it with the antibiotics and weakening it with the antibiotics, and you don't rebuild. And so, Margaret, your mother should really work with Michelle Ross. And we'll give you her link here. Michelle's been part of our team for so many years, and now she's independent, but we still refer to her all the time. But you don't have time to mess around. This killed my mother. That recurrent UTIs is a very common scenario that's leading to sepsis. And your doctors don't tell you that. And then one day your mom goes in and, oh, my mother just started seeing, what was it? Elephants and zebras on the side of the road. She's hallucinating because sepsis affects your brain. It's called toxic encephalopathy. And that was the diagnosis my mother got, was metabolic toxic encephalopathy. And I said, well, I'm not buying that. And so we brought my mother back from that, but then she went back to her old ways. You can lead a horse to water kind of thing. But Margaret, please, please, please have your mother make an appointment with Michelle Ross as soon as possible. And no, it's no scare tactic. It's like she's in danger. She's in danger. And you don't want to look back and say, you know, I delayed and we might have been able to do something. So it's great that she's doing cranberry juice. She's on the right track, but you need a lot more than that. You need to find out why is the bank account drained and what is it that the immune system is fighting. Rosemarie's asking, what is the best leaky gut protocol? Mine, by far, but mine. I'm now getting sick every few months from it, needing antibiotics. Thank you. Rosemarie, you're missing something. You need a functional medicine practitioner who's going to walk with you down this path to find out why you keep having this happen. And it sounds like you've been trying to address leaky gut, and whatever the protocols are, they help, you know, some more than others, but they help. They're on the right path. You're in the right direction, but you're missing something. And you need someone to walk with you down this path to help you figure out what is it that I'm missing. And it's not that this supplement and this supplement is going to fix your leaky gut. That never happens. Never. You know, there's studies that show, yeah, glutamine helps fix a leaky gut. Stop the glutamine and it comes right back. And it's not a deficiency of glutamine. It's that there's something else going on causing the leaky gut. So you do not want to focus exclusively on how do I fix a leaky gut. You have to identify where is it coming from? Why does it keep coming back? And that's where you need a functional medicine practitioner. Anne is highlighting some of these, I think. So that's Quincy, I'll go to yours next. When calculating how much water to drink in a day, can I include the water I'm adding to protein shakes or smoothies? Really good question. And the answer is probably yes. Probably. I don't know for sure, but probably. And if you're getting up to 1/3 to a 1/2 ounce of water per pound body weight, if you're in a hot climate like I am, you're just naturally sweating every day, you're up at 1/2. Or if you're exercising and sweating a lot with your exercise regularly, some people like hot yoga, or some people like to sweat with cycling and all that, you're up to a 1/2 ounce of water per pound body weight. If you're not sweating so much, 1/3 of an ounce per pound body weight will probably be okay. So if you're in that ballpark range and you're asking, you know, the water of a smoothie, does that count? The answer is yes, because you're getting plenty of liquid. And yes, in my opinion, that's going to count. I've never seen a study on that, but in my opinion, I think you'd be safe. Please tell us more about a statement you made last week about gluten. You said it takes our immune system 2 to 3 months to recover from just one exposure. That's alarming. I was allowing myself a piece of pizza or scone now and then, but won't now. Good for you, Joanne. And you bet I'll explain that. And hang on just one minute, Joanne. And I'm seeing that our guest is not here yet. So how about if you give Michelle a call and see if she can pop on, because it's so much fun to do these together. And if not, I'll do it, of course, happily. You know, but an hour of nonstop is a little more challenging. Okay. When you get a vaccination, let's say for yellow measles, they give you a shot of the bug, measles. And your immune system says, whoa, what's this? I better fight this thing that's in my bloodstream. And you start making antibodies to measles. And what happens is the brain that directs all of this says, you, general. And in your immune system, you've got Army, Air Force, Marine Corps generals sitting around with nothing to do. You, general, you now are General Measles. General Measles builds an assembly line. The assembly line starts producing soldiers, special forces. And those special forces are trained to go after measles. High-powered rifles going after measles. And in the bloodstream, because you just got this injection. And the way they know where the measles are, because your bloodstream is just a highway and everything's going in the same direction, right? But it's all bouncing around in there. There's no lanes of traffic. Your bloodstream just bounces like bumper cars in there all the time. And how do the special forces, how do they identify what's bumping around? If you ever seen videos of blood a little bit, how fast it's going by, and it's all bouncing around in there. How do they do it? There's a protein signature on the outside of measles that the immune system, the assembly line, is training the special forces. Look for that protein signature. I call that yellow vest. So special forces are looking for yellow vests. Boom, boom, and they're firing their chemical bullet at yellow vests wherever they find it. And General Measles is watching all of this, watching the assembly line get built. It takes a few months to build the assembly line and get it up there. When General Measles notices that all the measles bug are gone, he says, okay, turn off the assembly line. We don't need any more soldiers right now. But the soldiers that have been made, the antibodies to measles, they've got a lifespan of anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks, sometimes depending on the paper, 10 weeks. So 2 to 2.5 months. You turn off the assembly line, they're going for 2 to 2.5 months. But if you're ever exposed to measles, General Measles is vigilant the rest of his life. He's called a memory B cell. And you develop a memory B cell to measles. So if you're in an airplane and the guy sitting behind you coughs a bunch of stuff into the air, and he just came from Mogadishu, and you inhale measles, and that gets in your bloodstream, General Measles, measles. He doesn't have to build the assembly line. He just has to flip the switch, and the assembly line's up and running in 2 to 3 days. And now special forces are right back. The first time, building the assembly line takes a few months. But now General Measles just has to turn the switch on, and you've got the antibodies to measles in a couple of days. That's why if you go to Africa, you need vaccinations months and months in advance. But if you come back, or if you go back 15 years later, you just need a booster shot 2 weeks before you go. Everybody knows what booster shots are, right? You just have to wake up general yellow fever and general dengue fever and whatever the vaccinations for Africa are that you get. You just have to wake them up again. General measles, general yellow fever, general dengue fever are called memory B cells. When you cross the line of tolerance and you're making elevated antibodies to wheat, that's why the wheat zoomer is so important. When you have elevated antibodies to wheat, you've created general wheat, a memory B cell for wheat. Just Google memory B cells and wheat. Here come the studies. So now you're gluten-free. Now you're squeaky clean, gluten-free. The antibodies to wheat come down. Your inflammation comes down. Your weight maybe comes down. Your energy goes up. You sleep better. Whatever the inflammatory symptoms were that calm down because you're not eating wheat anymore, all of those things are happening. But then you have an exposure to wheat. Maybe like, what was her name? I'm looking for the name again. I'm looking for that question and I can't find the question there now, but whatever your name was, you're cheating once. Oh, here it is, Joanne. So Joanne's gonna have a piece of pizza once every week or two. Now, general gluten, the memory B cell, general gluten says, alarm, alarm. And he flips the switch. Now you're making the antibodies again to gluten or to the other peptides of wheat that the wheat zoomer looks for. Now they come right back again. And now, and depending on your genetic vulnerability, here come the antibodies to your thyroid, or here come the antibodies to your skin, or here come the antibodies to your brain. It just depends on your genetics as to where your weak link is, that the antibodies to gluten may contribute to the antibodies to your other tissue, your heart, your lungs, your liver, doesn't matter where. But now they come back again. And when general gluten flips the switch on from that single exposure, he doesn't turn the switch off tomorrow. the assembly line keeps going for at least a month to 2 months. I breathed some measles bug because some guy coughed. My measles assembly line is producing measles antibodies for a month, 6 weeks, 2 months. So a single exposure, you activate the memory B cell to wheat, and depending on your genetic vulnerability and the molecular mimicry, and you guys can read my books to really understand these concepts, but depending on your own molecular mimicry and genetic vulnerability, here come the antibodies to myelin, the saran wrap around your nerves, and up your numbness and tingling comes back, your symptoms of MS come back. And I've said this for years. And, I'm back on stage again next week, and I'm really looking forward to it because, when I say these things and I'm looking at a screen, I don't know the impact factor here. But I've been saying this for years. You can't be a little pregnant. You can't have a little gluten. Once you've crossed the line of tolerance and you've got memory B cells to gluten, you can't have a little gluten. And the doctors that tell you it's okay to have a cheat day, shame on you. Excuse me, but read the science before you come up with these conclusions that keep people sick. Sorry, and I say that to them on stage, and everybody giggles a little bit uncomfortably. Mary is on Zoom, and she says, I've been watching a glutenology masterclass, and I'm even more confused on the differences between genetic testing and the Zoomers. Is the wheat Zoomer only testing for celiac disease, or will it test for sensitivity, which apparently isn't always celiac? Is there a reason why a person would want to get a genetic test for gluten over the wheat Zoomer? Really good question, Mary. And the answer, in my opinion, is no, there's not. Unless it's a child and you want to know how vulnerable they are. But genetics tell you where the weak link in your chain is. That's a really good thing to know. It's academic to some degree, because what I want to know is, what is my immune system fighting right now in my life? Where am I draining from my bank account of the immune system, allocating my precious immune energy to fight this? And if I'm eating it every day or every other day or every third day, I'm draining from my bank account. And the concept of genetics is a good concept, absolutely. But the wheat, it's apples and oranges. Wheat Zoomer is what's happening right now today. What's your immune system doing right now? I don't care. I shouldn't say it like that, I do care. But it's not as important to me what your potential problems are when you come to see me. What's important is what you're dealing with right now. By the way, I've told my staff I'm going to take clients again, and I'll take one client a week. One client a week. If you're interested, you go to info@theDr.com and they can walk you through the protocol. And I only want to work with people that have been working hard and they can't quite get the answer. They're missing something. But I'll do one a week. And I just love working with people one-on-one. And talking to a screen is not much fun, but I know the impact it has, because you guys are kind enough to give me little hearts and stars, and you also make really nice comments that keep us going. So thank you for all that. Thank you. Shanquilo asks, have you ever heard of parasite cleansing, reversing dairy or gluten sensitivity or allergy? Do you think everyone should do 1-2 times a year? Really good question, Shanquilo. Parasite cleansing is a really good idea. Our world is very toxic today. If it were one or the other, I would do chemical cleansing a couple times a year more than parasite cleansing. But doing a parasite cleanse for most people has a noticeable impact, especially the first time if they've never done one before. So it's a great concept to do that. But the answer of reversing a sensitivity to dairy or gluten is sometimes, for some foods, yeah, because you're taking a load off of the immune system, and so it's not so hyper vigilant. And now you have a little bit of radish or a little bit of cucumber, your immune system can handle it easily, and it doesn't send out all the alarm bells, and you increase the antibodies, and you're making lots of, you got the assembly line going to fight this food. with elevated levels of antibodies anymore. When your immune system's calmer, you can do that, but not with wheat. It's the only food in the world that we have so many studies. And for those of you that are healthcare practitioners, please consider my certified gluten-free practitioner course. And those of you that are not, that really want to dial this down, you're welcome to do it also. We'll put the link here. But when you see the science that every human develops leaky gut and inflammation in their gut every time they're exposed to wheat, when you see the science that this happens in every human, and this is from Harvard, and there are many studies on this now, then you understand wheat is in a category outside of any other food. What does it take to convince people, well, maybe I should just check this and see if I'm not telling you everybody needs to go gluten-free. I'm telling you everyone needs to test accurately. Do you have a problem with wheat? And if you do, it's a no-brainer. It's no discussion. It may take a while to learn how to do it, and we're about to launch a course. We just had another meeting today. We're bringing on a world expert on implementing gluten-free protocols. So it's going to be easier for you to do this, and we're building it now. It's almost done. But that's the one food you do not negotiate with. If the wheat Zoomer comes back positive, even for one marker out of the 26 markers, even if one of them comes back positive, you're done with wheat. And then in 6 months or a year, you do the test again, and now the test is negative, then your therapist gives you a high five, way to go, you've done it. Well, can I eat wheat now because my immune system calms down? And everyone that's here today knows the answer to that. Well, actually, no, you can't, because you've got memory B cells to wheat and they get activated. And how much does it take? I've asked immunologists before, how much exposure does it take of wheat to activate general gluten? How much exposure does it take? 1/1000th the dose of the vaccine that you had for measles. 1/1000th. And that's from Schoenfeld. So crumbs, just a little crumb, is all it takes to activate general gluten. How much measles does it take in the air? Some guy coughs in the airplane, I breathe it in. How much did I get? 1/1000th, the initial dosage, to activate your protective mechanisms to protect you from a toxin. Wheat is a toxin. There's no other food like that. So excuse me for being a little bit more in your face, direct about this, but I don't know what else to do except to say that. And then people come in and say, well, yeah, doc, I heard you last year and you were talking about this, but I've been diagnosed with Hashimoto's. What do I take? What do I take to get rid of the Hashimoto's? No. Okay, Peruse is asking, what is your comment on the carnivore diet for autoimmune disease? For some people, it's been shown to be effective. In my clinical experience, blood type O's tend to be a little more likely to benefit from that approach, but I've never recommended it myself. I've talked to others who have. I'm actually going to be on stage in Austin next, in 2 weeks at the Paleo FX conference. I'm going to Austin for that conference to talk about this, about paleo diets and carnivore diets, that there is some evidence that it can be helpful, but it's not the primary. It's a very specific to a limited number of people approach, but it may be the right approach for some people. I can't say anything against it as long as you're using quality meats. Is the autoimmune diagnosis due to toxicity in the gluten from environmental toxicity? No, Dr. Sue. Really good question, but no, it's not. It's the peptides of undigestible wheat. When they come out of the stomach, they activate toll-like receptor 4 in the proximal part of the small intestine. That includes gluten, wheat amylase trypsin inhibitors, wheat germ agglutinins, the lectins of wheat. There's a number of different peptides of poorly digested wheat that will do that. Treatment for Graves' hyperthyroid for patients versus methimazole medications. Everything we talk about for autoimmune diseases. You've got, and with, of course, if you have a thyroid autoimmune disease, you also need to check for iodine insufficiency or iodine excess. You need to check for chlorine sensitivity. There are 3 compounds that consistently inhibit thyroid hormone function, which makes your thyroid want to make more hormone because the hormone's not getting into the cells. And that, of course, is chlorine, fluoride, and bromine. So everyone needs a chlorine filter on their shower because that's where you get more chlorine than anywhere else, is the steam you inhale in the shower. And so you need a chlorine filter. They're only $50. You can get them Whole Foods, get it on Amazon, and you unscrew the shower head, screw the filter on, then screw the shower head on the other end of it, and you replace the cartridge every 6 months, and it helps this much. Remember, I always say base hits win the ball game, but when you're dealing with thyroid autoimmune disease, it's a prerequisite. You have to reduce your exposure to those chemicals that can compete and inhibit thyroid hormone function. I've tried everything to get my thyroid antibodies down. Not high, 128. That's way too high, 128. But have even been on LDN for 3 years. Gluten, dairy, corn, soy-free. I teach fitness for 20 plus years. And if most days. I'm not sure what capital I, capital F means. You're in your mid 50s. Okay. So you're missing something inhibiting thyroid. I mean, it could be BPA. Just Google BPA and thyroid. It could be microplastics that are binding to your thyroid, activating your immune system to fight the microplastics on your thyroid, antibodies to phthalates, attacking your thyroid because that's where the phthalates are accumulating. And then it causes damage to the thyroid cells. So you make more thyroid antibodies to get rid of the old and damaged cells. And that's a perpetual cycle that continues because you're drinking spring water, but it's in bottles. So you're being exposed to all the plastic. I mean, there are many different things. The chemicals are really common. So you need to identify, Karen, you need to identify, Karen, where is the toxicity coming from? Let's see. Oh, yeah, Karen, right. Is there a relationship between fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome? Yes. I've been gluten, wheat free, dairy and sugar free for the last year. Congratulations. But I've recently developed fibrositis type neck and shoulder pain with headaches and fatigue and wonder what can be the reasons for these symptoms. I had mono in my 30s and was fatigued for 9 months. Is this significant to my present condition? It could be. It could be. You may have viruses that you may have elevated antibodies to viruses. You can have toxic chemicals, heavy metals can cause this, especially with the neck and the upper shoulder tension that you're describing. That's often, not every time, but often an accumulated toxicity condition. You know, we have endotoxins and exotoxins. Exotoxins are the outside environment coming into you. That's why you need air filtration systems in your house, and we'll give you the link to the Air Doctor, rated #1 of all room air detoxifiers, the Air Doctor, and house plants. Why you need house plants in every room? We'll give you the link to the theDr.com handout on house plants, and Ann's writing furiously right now while I'm saying all this. But you want to create a non-toxic indoor environment. And most people, their indoor environment is more deadly than the outdoor environment, and they just don't know it. And you'll read all about that in the handouts that we give you here that you can download. But if I were seeing you, and I would be looking at toxic chemicals, heavy metals, and food sensitivities first. And you've done a lot on the food sensitivities already. Congratulations. You know, but there may be something like aquaporins which is corn, soy, tomato, and spinach. If you have a sensitivity to any of those, there's a cross-reactivity that the antibodies to those foods can attack the aquaporin, which is a component of the nerves in your brain and your central nervous system. And I've seen it before. Tomatoes is really common for that, where the tension in your shoulders and in your neck is from a food sensitivity. But it can be foods, it can be exotoxins, the outside environment, or endotoxins. That's the other one. What are endotoxins? Toxins inside your body. And there are three categories that you have to look at for toxins inside your body. The first is your microbiome. If you have too many bad guys, remember, if you've heard me talk before, 36% of all the small molecules in your healthy bloodstream, 36% are the exhaust of the bacteria in your gut, called the metabolites of the bacteria in your gut. 36% of everything. That's 1/3 of all the small molecules in your bloodstream are the metabolites of the bacteria in your gut. If you have too much bad bacteria, the metabolites in your bloodstream are inflammation, which creates a breach of the blood-brain barrier, leaky brain, leaky lungs, leaky bladder, for that bladder, chronic urinary tract infections, really common. It could easily be the microbiome that has to be addressed. That's why I said, see Michelle. But your microbiome, if you have too many bad guys, the messages are inflammatory messages going everywhere in your body. Bloodstream goes everywhere. Every cell of your body gets blood, every cell, even the bone cells, not much, but even the bone cells. And so that's the first of the three endotoxins, inside your body toxins. That's the microbiome. The second is the toxic chemicals that you've been exposed to that, I've got a group of guys, they're my best friends in the world. There's 7 of us. And we've been together for over 30 years. And when we all lived in Chicago, we met every Thursday night for 18 years. And then one guy moved to Montana, Whitefish, Montana. One guy moved to Reno. I moved to Southern California. So we'd meet every couple of weeks on a Zoom call, and we still meet. Well, one of my guys has just been diagnosed with Lewy body dementia. And it's a shocking diagnosis for him and for us. And I kind of lost it on the call because my guys, they think I'm a little bit of a nutcase because of everything I talk about. And I just started saying, grab the soap on the counter in your bathroom. Read the label on what you're putting on your skin. And then take some of those names on the label, just type it into your computer and Google it and read the side effects. That the amount of chemicals we're exposed to is more than ever before in the history of humans, ever. We're all getting exposed to these chemicals, and your brain says, get this stuff off the highway. Get it off. For example, you put nail polish on, and the phthalates, the plasticizer chemicals in nail polish that harden the nails, the plasticizers are in your bloodstream in 4 to 5 minutes. Now, not enough to cause any problems for you, but your brain says, get this stuff out of circulation. And if your liver and kidneys can't get rid of it, it gets thrown into storage. Well, what's the storage cells in your body? Your fat cells. You ever wonder why you're not eating very many calories, but you can't lose weight? Your fat cells, it's a defense mechanism. No, I can't burn off that fat because these are toxic chemicals in here. No, we can't get rid of that. No. You don't make more fat cells after the age of 2 or 3. They just get bigger or smaller. And they're getting bigger with all the toxic chemicals that we're being exposed to. So you have to learn what's a healthy glass cleaner instead of Windex. What's a healthy furniture polish instead of pledge? All this crap that we've grown up with that gets into your fat cells. And as it accumulates, you hit a threshold where this stuff just starts leaking out. Your fat cells can't hold anymore and it leaks out. That's number 2 of the endotoxins. The first one was what's in your gut, too many bad guys and the exhaust, and gets into your bloodstream. And we got all these toxins, these messengers of inflammation going throughout the body. So my friend with this diagnosis of Lewy body has to fix his gut. He doesn't even know he's got a gut problem, probably not yet. He will soon. And he's got to get rid of all this crap in his house, the oven cleaner, So, and we have handouts on what are healthy home cleaning products. And you have to learn all this stuff. It's going to take you some time to learn all. That's why my book, You Can Fix Your Brain, the book, the subtitle of the book is Just an Hour a Week to the Best Memory, Productivity, and Sleep You've Ever Had, because this is overwhelming. But every week you just take one thing and you work on it. And next week you take one more thing and you work on it. Next week you take one more thing and you work on it. And the result is in 6 months, you've dialed this in and you're doing very different. It's noticeable how much different you're doing. And number 3 of the endotoxins. Number 1 was your gut, too many bad guys and the messages of inflammation. Number 2 is your fat cells and the accumulative amount of toxic chemicals in your fat cells. Everybody should read Dr. Joe Pizzorno's book. He was on late last year. His book is The Toxic Solution. It's a fabulous book. So you understand what you're up against here and how you have to get rid of this stuff. And number 3 are stress hormones. And the amount of stress hormones we make creates a very, very aggressive immune suppressing environment in our bodies. The more stress hormones you make, effective your immune system is at keeping you healthy. So there's the endotoxins and the exotoxins. So I'm going to, Marzi didn't come back in with Geo, and I can understand why. We have some guests here. Geo's got a play date with a little girl that's 2 months older than him. And so he's really happy right now. So I'm going to see if I can bring up here Facebook so I can see if you guys are giving me any stars or hearts or thumbs up or things like that, because I'm just talking to myself here. I can't see anybody on the screen. Well, it looks like I can't even bring up Facebook. I've got Facebook, but I don't know where to find, the hell with it, I guess. So I'll just do without on that one. Next question. I've been strictly gluten-free for the past 8 months, thanks to you, Dr. Tom. Congratulations. My thyroid antibodies have come way down into the normal range. Congratulations. But my TSH is still in the hypo range, even though I'm taking thyroid meds. Do I just need more time to stabilize? I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's in 2004. No. Your TSH stands for thyroid stimulating hormone. It's not a measure of your thyroid. TSH is made by your brain, by the pituitary in your brain, saying, I need more thyroid hormone here, which means your cells are not getting enough thyroid hormone. So the cells are sending the message out to the brain, I need more hormone, I need more hormone. And so the brain centralizes those little messages into producing TSH. We need more hormone here. It's like, with a bullhorn, we need more hormone. That's TSH. Okay, it's not a measure of your thyroid. Your thyroid's doing much better, congratulations. But the thyroid hormone to the cells very well. Why? I don't know. You got to find out. You got to go through the whole process. Is it toxins? Most likely it is. Is there a food that's suppressing this? Is it emotions? It could be anything. That's a really good case. If you want, I would work on your case. As I said earlier, I'll take one client a week for a consultation. I'm not going to be your doctor, but I'll give you the direction that you need to go. We'll dial it down. I look at all your test results, For the last 5 years, I study your history and then we talk. And, we can dial down and find out. And I like doing that, especially when I'm talking to a screen all day or every day. And so I like talking to people on Zoom. What are the risks of a carnivore diet on one's microbiome? It depends on the individual. This is from Yamaguchi on Zoom. Thank you for the question. I always get bloating and gas when eating plant foods, but I've heard they're needed for proper microbiome balance. They are. Is SIBO at play with my experience? And finally, how would you recommend introducing a specific probiotic such as Bifidobacterium longum into the system? Okay. If you get bloating and gas when you eat vegetables, your microbiome's way out of balance and your digestive enzyme production is likely low. So you need to test what's going on in the microbiome. Do I have SIBO? Am I producing enough hydrochloric acid? Am I producing enough pancreatic enzymes? Am I producing enough bile from the gallbladder to digest my food? The answer somewhere in there is no. Most likely it's no, no, and no. Most likely it's more than one thing, but you just have to test. The rule is test, don't guess. So find a practitioner. Michelle Ross is great for this. Find a practitioner that you trust and you want to work with and find out what's going on. Test, don't guess. If I accidentally eat gluten, I get insomnia. Is this related or am I impressed? No, it's absolutely related. I love the real thing you say. Thank you. No hidden stuff. Doctors won't tell you. Thank you. Big star. Oh, thank you, Flory. That's really nice. There's a human there. Thank you so much. And I know people appreciate this, and I really thrive on when people send a message, sometimes they will to info@theDr.com, and they'll say, hey, I tried this and this, and it's really helped substantially, or my daughter's ... It's completely gone now. Thank you so much. And I read those to our staff, because one of our staff, for example, and she's probably here tonight, she usually is, Laura, Laura has the thankless job of coordinating my schedule. It's just thankless. I mean, she doesn't see any of the benefits of the hard work that she does every day. Scheduling my interviews, she doesn't see the end result after the interview. And that's why Laura is our most faithful partner in staff who's on Facebook Live every week, because I'm sure this gives her juice. I've never asked you, Laura, but I'm sure it gives you juice. So when you guys send us in your testimonials or a little video, I show it to the staff, and we get teary-eyed sometimes, and it reinforces what we're doing. It makes us want to do more and work a little harder, because this isn't about how much of this can we sell or how much of that can we sell. And yes, we sell products and we sell courses because we're the best, my opinion, at what we do. And I've got to pay the staff, and we all need to have an income. But that's not why we do this. I think you can tell, especially for me, it's my passion, and everyone on the team has that same drive. I mean, Anne is just so dedicated, puts in so many hours behind the scene to build these programs, to make sure that we're including this concept and this and if we say it like this, more people will probably understand what we're trying to say. And this video is good, but Dr. Tom, can you do that again without this? I mean, thankless jobs that our team is doing. So we appreciate your feedback very much, very much. Any suggestions for young women with PCOS and having difficulty getting pregnant? Oh, absolutely, Ellen, absolutely. I mean, that's how I got into all of this, was infertility in my case, for my ex-wife and I called the 7 most famous doctors I'd ever heard of. And when I was still in school and said, what do you do for infertility? They told us, I put it all down and I made a program. We were pregnant in 6 weeks. And my neighbors in married housing heard all that and asked if I'd work with them. They'd been through artificial insemination, nothing had worked. And I said, Okay, yeah, I don't think it'll hurt you in any way. They were pregnant in 3 months. So now we're like 4 months pregnant or so and hot to trot telling our friends, and our friend's sister in Wisconsin, because I was in Chicago. We lived in married housing in Chicago on campus. And her sister comes down from Wisconsin because she's having problems with fertility. And I'm working with people out of my dorm room before I'm even in clinic seeing people. And you're not supposed to do that, but I was. So infertility is close to my heart. And yeah, there's a lot we can do. Um, PCOS is always about endotoxin and endotoxin, endotoxin and exotoxin, always. And there's hormone imbalances, but you don't take hormones. You may need if you're low in some, but you don't take hormones unless you're low in hormone. If you're low, you need more. Then you have to figure out how come I'm not making enough and fix that. But it's PCOS is not a hormone deficiency. It includes hormone insufficiency and deficiency, but the triggers is called insulin resistance, blood sugar problems. And some young women today, they inherited it from a mom that had blood sugar problems before mom was pregnant, and during mom's pregnancy, she had these blood sugar problems. So baby developed with an abnormal blood sugar regulating system, and it just progresses from there. You need a functional medicine practitioner, absolutely need a functional medicine practitioner who is familiar with this larger. Michelle's really good at that. Please consider Michelle Ross. I'm sure the link's been posted by now. What can you tell us about a new diagnosis? Kathleen's asking that question. I don't really know what that means, Kathleen. You have to elaborate a little bit more. Do you have to eat gluten for the wheat zoomer to pick up the sensitivity? Really good question. Really good question. And the answer is no. If you're gluten-free, you do the zoomer. You do the zoomer. And 80+% of the time, it's going to come back positive. And you say, well, wait, but I've been gluten-free for a year. Yeah, but you have hidden exposures that you don't know about. Or you've got cross-reactivity with another food, meaning you eat dairy, as an example. You eat dairy, your immune system sensitive dairy, it makes dairy antibodies, but then it still also makes wheat antibodies. That's called a cross-reactivity. And there are many foods that can trigger that. Corn and dairy are the most common, but you've been gluten-free, great. Do the test to confirm what you're doing is working. And most people are surprised to find out it ain't working. It may be helping, but you're missing something. That's very common to see. I'd like to do both cleanses. Do you have one that you recommend? I'm not sure what both cleanses you're referring to. Are you referring to endo and exotoxins? And if that's the case, you have to work with somebody to prepare your body for that. And Dr. Pizzorno's book, The Toxic Effect, explains all of that. But what Marzi and I did, and with everything I know, Marzi and I still went to Swiss Mountain Clinic in Switzerland. And it's just the best, the very best. And they are, my friend, Robin Openshaw, the green smoothie girl, went to 19 different cancer treatment centers around the world, 19. And when she walked in the Swiss Mountain Clinic, she knew on day one, she finally found them, finally found a really great place. And they are 30% less than most other clinics in their expenses. And you stay on site in a beautiful, simple room. And I always say this, you know, you walk into your room and you pull back the curtains for the balcony and you look out and you just want to yodel, you know, because you're in the Swiss mountains and they're spectacularly beautiful. And the chef is a Michelin star rated chef who's been there since the day they opened, takes great pride in what he does. And Marzi converted their kitchen to completely gluten-free, completely, so you're extremely safe there. But their main emphasis, the first week for everyone that comes, everyone, without exception, the first week is to deal with the queen. That's what they call the liver. She's the queen. And you have to open up the queen first. The liver's your oil filter, and you've got a dirty oil filter. So you have to open up the liver first so that you can then start mobilizing toxins throughout your body. So there's a sequential order to detoxing properly, or else you get sick. You can get really sick. And we used to call it a healing crisis. That's because it was another way of saying we don't really know what it is, but you'll be fine. You'll be better. Some people go through this, but it's a healing crisis. No, it's not. We didn't detox the body in preparation for systemic detoxing. We didn't do it properly. Now we know. Now we know. But back in the 80s, we didn't know. All right, so I've gone over. So thank you all very much. I see there's still a bunch of questions, and I will start next week with some of these questions. As today, I opened up with a couple of questions from the previous week that I hadn't answered because some of you were still typing in questions. So I'll do that again next week. Thank you all so very much for being here tonight. I love you guys. I love doing this. And send us some messages. Tell us how it is for you with what we're doing here. Is it of value? It makes our day, and I'll share your comments with the entire team. Thank you so very much. See you next week. Bye-bye.